guys in a while. What happened?
Like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
So thanks for coming back on. I know you guys, and I could say this, you guys work 24/7 behind the scenes. I've been seeing a lot of the work, not just for Flourishing AI, but everything, the portfolio manager, FAIT nonstop, uplink, onboarding projects. It's like, again, it's 24/7. So you guys deserve a break. I'll give it to you.
But we had looked at ways to do it. Yeah.
And I'll say that.
Yeah.
And the community missed you too. So thanks for coming back.
That's awesome. Thank you guys. Yeah, no, we made it back. We were on another continent for a few days, Will and I. So, but it's good to be right back here with the community, and we've got some great news around, product roadmap, which we're going to start to, publish now. So get excited about that, and we'll talk about the market. We'll talk about the ETH upgrade that it will happen at some point eventually. We don't know when yet, right? So you guys are on track with that. And then Will chime in as he possibly can, because he's completely jet lagged right now after coming back from Amsterdam.
Yeah. So as you guys know, like me and Eric went for business overseas, but then I stayed longer, and then I took a family trip that was way overdue to Amsterdam, which I completely loved. So
yeah, well, it's good that you're back. I got to also say, when you were gone, the market was doing some weird stuff. We missed your market.
Yeah, don't go anymore.
So I think
I always have to bring the market in, right? When I step out, the market just goes crazy, right?
No more vacations. You're here. Stay.
You're not allowed to go anymore. And one more thing that's kind of new, and I want everybody to notice this, like, check out the spiffy new studio that Jason's got. Like, that's awesome. Look at that. The last one was cool. This one is way nicer.
I got some.
You really have your
material.
On. Yeah,
that's awesome. I got to give my friend a name.
FAIT.
we gotta give the astronaut a name. Got to come up with that. All right. As always, though, disclaimer, can't forget about that. So let's do that first, and then we'll come back in a bit. All right? Ready?
Let's do it.
See you guys in a bit. All right, guys, we're back. Yeah, this is the short-term intermediate studio, getting ready for the other larger move to an even nicer studio. So baby steps.
Looks amazing, actually. So I have a funny astronaut story. It'll take me 20 seconds at most, right? So I was in an earlier sort of role. I was at a company where we were contracting to have one of the moon landing astronauts actually join the company Christmas party, is basically the way it works out. And I was on the call, and everybody's on speakerphone, and the lawyers for this particular gentleman, I'm not going to name the name, but it's one of the guys that landed on the moon. And so the lawyer was basically negotiating, and the negotiation got heated. And at some point, our company HR person had made a request, and I forget what it was. And it was so outlandish that on the other side, we had like a moment, like literally a second or two of silence, like that. And then in the background, we heard, "Son of a bitch," and then a door slam or whatever. And then after another moment, the lawyer said, "Well, Mr. So-and-so has decided to cancel the negotiations."
Yeah, always good.
So that was my funny. And it was like, dress up in an astronaut costume and take pictures with everybody or something. And that was just a bit too much for the guy. But anyway, so that was my funny. I met an astronaut story, and he was pissed off at me and everybody else.
Easter Bunny's not too far away also.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We should have done that.
I'm going to put some bunny ears on him next time.
Yeah. Space Easter Bunny.
Space Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
Maybe we do that next week. Well, Easter's this week, right?
Yeah, it's Sunday.
Yeah, we should have worn Easter Bunny costumes, but then nobody would take us seriously. So so that's okay.
All right, let's get into these numbers. So I've always been a big person of numbers
Yep.
and stats because numbers don't lie, right? I mean,
Yep,
that's
exactly.
the big premise behind it. Numbers are numbers.
Yeah. So there's two numbers that I can give you guys on upLink, right? One is 3 weeks. That's how long we've actively been signing people up. The other number is 8 signups. So we are signing people up at a clip of about 3 a week. So that is pretty awesome. Now we're in the process of implementing all of those, right? So most of those, I would say about a third of them are live at this point. So it does take time to get them up to speed. But actually on the uplinkdefi.com site, you guys can see and actually buy into some of these projects as well if you want to kind of get in relatively early. And I will mention one more thing. For those of you who have been with us for a while, you know that Will and I came from sort of the gaming and entertainment space. Well, it's funny because most of these folks that are coming on, and some of them we haven't announced yet, just to be clear, right? You guys have talked to 3, maybe 4, right? And I'm using numbers like 8, right? So that tells you that there's more coming maybe next week, right? So stay tuned. But most of them are actually entertainment, media, and gaming properties as well. So we seem to have hit a real niche on that. And I think it's because upLink makes it very easy to buy the token, and that's a really important thing when you're dealing with an entertainment property.
Yeah,
Well, also,
and we're continually improving it. You'll see even from like a week or two ago, you could go through the flow now in upLink, and it's like way more smooth now even.
Mm-hmm.
Every client that we integrate, like some of them, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And we integrate it all together and we deploy it for everybody. So holistically, everybody on upLink gets to benefit, which is really cool.
I'd also just say with the gamers specifically, or with those tokens, a lot of exchanges don't reach out to them, or they also may not have like the proper funding to get onto some of the larger exchanges.
That's right.
So what other options do they have? I mean, there are actually no options, right? You guys just...
Well, it's one thing to be on an exchange, but there's like a whole nother level beyond that to sit there and call up Binance or Bittrex or somebody like that and be like, hey, we want to do a direct fiat to my token. Like that, the chances of you doing that as a small project is zero.
Zero. You know? Zero. Well, and imagine you hit it big anyway, right? So why wouldn't you set up a purchase right on your website anyway, outside of the exchange? Like it doesn't, you know, if you're small, there's a massive benefit. If you're a large project, there's a massive benefit. It doesn't really matter. So
well, I'll bring up the elephant in the room, which is that you're offering a direct 1-for-1 transfer of money. That's why upLink is a money service business, right? We're FinCEN registered and everything. This brings up the topic of chargebacks and crime and money laundering and all these things that SEC is afraid of, right? Like this is why governments are seeking, how do we regulate this stuff, right? Because you're converting cash money into this virtual digital money, right? So, and this is why things like KYC, AML exists and all this type of stuff comes into it. So we're putting a lot of effort into specifically this part of the equation. And it's actually one of the hardest parts of the equation to get correct and the most important one to get correct, right? Many people can process cards, right? Few companies know how to do fraud detection, money laundering detection, and mitigation, and how to do reporting correctly. And this, I think, is ultimately one of the key pieces that value added that we're going to add with upLink.
And I'll reveal one thing that I won't get into detail on for obvious reasons, or for reasons that will become super obvious in a minute. But on top of whatever the banks do in terms of processing credit cards, we actually run sort of a fraud filter ourselves. And it's actually been quite effective in our view. It's gotten better over the last 2 weeks in particular, but it's actually started to get real effective. And so that's an interesting one too, because we think over time merchants, you know, meaning projects, will do a whole lot better on upLink than they would with some of the alternatives in terms of chargeback rates and all those sorts of things. It's something that we really hit hard, you know, over the past couple of weeks and really have seen great strides in. I wish I could say more. There's some really innovative stuff that Will and the engineering team have done. The problem and the reason I'm being vague is because I don't want to give anybody any kind of you know. Hey, by the way, Jason, I think you're muted, or at least for me you are. I don't want to give the potential fraudsters and scammers and scumbags any ideas as to how to try to circumvent the system. But long story short, there aren't many ways to do that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You are muted for sure, Jason. So
yeah, I can't hear you yet. So I don't know if it was just me.
I mean, well, like I said, you know, if you're a smaller project, the chances of you even offering a fiat on-ramp through like one of these major on-ramp providers is basically zero. But beyond that, even if you were to create a whole on-ramp system yourself, right, you then would immediately run into the issue of how do I deal with mitigation of fraud and KYC and all this other stuff. And these are the things that people don't talk about, right? They just think in their head, well, I'm just going to process a credit card and give them tokens. What's the problem with that?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a very bad route to go through. If that's like you get them. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah.
Jason left his own show. He's like, we're done with you guys. You guys are talking about engineering and security, and you guys are obviously jet lagged. He's done with us, you know.
I woke up at 3
first on Beyond FOMO. We actually got Jason off his own show. You saw it first here, guys. That's awesome.
Funny.
So the other thing we want to talk about, guys, at some point here is there's a lot more marketing coming. In fact, we're going to debut with you guys a new ad coming out real soon that we're super excited about. It's just a matter of being able to get it on the show. We have it ready. We just couldn't like actually broadcast it for various technical reasons that I will not bore you with. The other thing is we've actually started to develop and we will be publishing from here on out a roadmap for everything happening with both Flourishing AI and upLink. And so there'll be two. So one thing we want to talk about right out of the gate is, you know, performance tracking and generally, you know, what can you expect if you jump on? Hey, Jason, welcome back.
How about now?
Yeah,
we were just having a good old time because we were like, we were musing about how we managed to kick you off your own show. So that's fantastic.
I don't know what happened. I got the mic right.
That's a first, the Beyond FOMO first. You guys were here. History in the making.
Is it
Jason
low
had to
or
bail on his
can you
own
hear
show.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, good.
No, that's fine.
Everything was on. Who knows?
Sounds good. Video's good. Studio's amazing.
I was going to say, though.
Host is amazing.
I was just trying to say, don't give away too much information. Otherwise, they're going to be sneaky to circumvent that. I was watching, I'm like, no.
No. We definitely don't. There are some patterns. Let me put it that way. Just like with AI, where you have patterns in trading, there are some patterns to setting up a secure sort of, you know, bank card to crypto system. And that's as far as I'm going to go. We started talking about performance tracking, right? I mean, this is something that's near and dear to your heart, Jason, as well, right? Like you really wanted to set that up. So do you want me to jump in and sort of talk about how we're going to do it, Will? Do you want to do it?
I can
you're the most jet laggy person on the call, right? So
yeah. So I mean,
I'll give you the
just
option.
for reference. It's almost lunchtime. It's almost 12 here. I've been awake for 9 hours already locally because I'm still in European time zone. It's really hard to get out of that.
That's a good transition to have.
Yeah. So yeah, we had this whole thing with the accuracy of the performance going historically being off. And most of it is actually due to the fact that people transfer different coins in and out of their accounts. And it's not even just the major ones. It's like random other coins. So you can have situations where somebody transfers Cardano to their Binance account, then converts it to Bitcoin. And then we have to go and figure out, well, what was the value that was actually transferred in and converted into a manageable fund? And that's actually complicated at that point, right? So that's actually one of the major pieces that was left for actually performance tracking. So I think we have a solution for it. We're gonna do a little bit of testing. But going forward, one of the other things we're going to do here to kind of isolate raw performance of FAIT in a generalized way is to create just an account that all it does is you put money, we're going to put money into it right out the gate, and it's just going to just run. No transfers, no changing of settings, like none of that. It's just going to be pure, one pure account going forward. The only difficulty with that is that we will not have the historical performance to show, and we don't want to wait 3 months to show performance data, obviously. So we're going to have to do both, right? We're going to have to do the fix for the transfers situation, and then aggregate all the data across all the accounts and come up with reporting for that, as well as having this isolated account going forward so that the data is clean. Mm-hmm. So working on both of them.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'm also just looking at the most recent Twitter or tweets that Flourishing AI is sending out, and it's just boom, boom, boom. Like you guys are killing it. And that's fully automated. Again, this is FAIT trades, right?
I was literally on vacation. It was fully automated.
Yeah. We were out for a bit, right? So yeah, I mean, fully automated. And you know, the neat thing about it is that we're basically celebrating big wins in the community, and I think we need to do more of that, right? We've come a long way as a community, right? And the product itself has really come a long way. So, you know, we got to celebrate that a little bit. We got to high five each other on a daily basis, right? So, and even things like Tether. There was one post one day where I saw that it was, you know, 1% gain, 1.6% gain on Tether. It's like, well, Tether or USDT, I can't remember. Anyway, but on a stable coin arbitrage, that's pretty good for a day, right? And these are 24-hour cycles too. So
I would say that
it's pretty great. Good times here.
And you'll see the stablecoin arbitrage stuff in FAIT. When we hit a true capitulation or a distribution event where we're at our true market bottom, our true market top, those trades, there'll be a ton of them in really short order. Because what happens is everybody en masse will be trading, you know, to try to get off or get into crypto all at the same time, because they'll see it as such an obvious sell, obvious buy, right? So all of the stable coins will get depegged from each other. And this will create just massive amounts of arbitrage. We've seen this happen a few times on the past year where those type of events have happened, and FAIT just makes bank just arbitraging stable coins during these periods of time. It's really interesting.
I'd also say 1 or 2% may not sound like a lot, but when you're doing it over and over and over again, it actually adds up. So power numbers on that.
Yeah.
So then live performance tracking going on the web using sort of this account that's a reference account, so you can track daily, you know, how's it going and all that sort of stuff. As Will starts to lose it.
Yeah, he's starting to go to sleep.
We'll talk about one more thing here as well, and that is themed portfolios, right? So that's something that we want to also introduce as well in the short term. And Will, again, I can talk about it or you can talk about it. It's up to you.
I think you got this one.
All right, then. Sounds good. Passes the buck as he starts to nod off. It's a long trip. I hear you, man. Look, so one of the things that we're starting to look at is what if you believe in a specific sector, right? What if you believe in DeFi? What if you believe in crypto gaming? What if you believe in, specific applications of crypto? So you've got, sort of themed funds like the Coinbase 12, I think it was, right? And some others as well. So within that, now imagine, and there's some static portfolios out there, right? So, there's a couple of ETFs out there that just give you sort of a static crypto portfolio. But what if you can take within that universe general ranges at which some of these, portfolio constituents will participate, and then add an AI component that is opportunistic as well. So for example, if you know that ETH is going to drop because of market analysis and your historical range is anywhere from 10 to 20%, start to go down to the 10% level, start to take profits, go down to that sort of minimum level for that, for that constituent. And then as the price goes up, start buying into strength and start to gain on that. So it's actually very interesting. We're looking at applying sort of FAIT AI trading to sort of thematic portfolios that allow you to sort of leverage your belief in specific segments. To start, we've identified sort of 12 thematic portfolios. We may not launch with all of them, but that's sort of our thinking right now.
I like it.
You can go ahead and do that. And then the other piece of it would be within those thematic portfolios, you can kind of keep a sort of a generic one or a DeFi one or a music one or NFT or whatever the case may be. Now within that, then you also have the option of have FAIT trade for me, right? Or have Flourishing AI tell me what she wants to do, and then have me press the button and say, okay, I agree with that. Let's do that. So it gives you a little bit more fine-tuned control over your investment choices. So basically it becomes sort of two ways to do this. It becomes Flourishing AI sort of makes the trades for you, or the other approach would be she's kind of doing the research for you and suggesting kind of what looks right, and then you can kind of make the final call, giving you a little bit more say. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's good. I guess so I'll dumb this down a little bit just so I'll have a better understanding of this. So because we see this mass, so like meme tokens, right? When that's like the thing, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden a whole bunch of people come into the crypto space for meme tokens. But if FAIT has this curated portfolio, if I'm using that word properly.
Yes. Yes.
So here's a whole bunch of, FAIT is going to be managing meme tokens. But she's also not going to just get you the meme tokens if they're also like failures or just like keep failing. I mean, so she's going to have the main token. So if you're on Binance Smart Chain, it's going to be in BNB or the BUSD. And if she thinks those meme tokens will go up, then she'll go into it. But if she thinks they're going to go down, she's going to trade out. So just because you're going into these meme portfolios doesn't mean that's what you're actually going to be holding a majority of the time. You're there to trade in and out to profit from it.
Right, right. So stay within those boundaries that you set, but within that, also try to work it so that you're gaining off market swings, right? So think of it as AI being an opportunistic trader if you want to kind of let AI run your trades, or if you want, or excuse me, I flipped that around. Think of AI as being a swing trader, right? Or maybe switching to an opportunistic trader with you setting the specific strategy around the portfolio. So it's a very different look, isn't it?
Yeah, but I like that because you'll have people that will just want to get these meme tokens or then metaverse music, DeFi in general, right? But if that sector in itself is getting hit hard, which we've seen meme tokens get hit. So if that starts to collapse, you're not going to tell FAIT, why did you sell this? Why did you get out of it? It's time to get out.
Right. We're trying to give you a little bit more control as a person using the portfolio management system because, and look, this happens to me as well, right? Where she's making trades, she's doing, you know, reasonably well in bear markets and really well in bull markets, right? But then in some cases, I may have an instinct around, you know, getting into a certain position or getting out of a certain position. So for those of you who have run this in Telegram, and I'm getting super geeky here, right? But for those of you in Telegram who can run the promising command, we're basically using that as a guide to sort of DYOR, right? So you combine sort of all of the research that we're doing with tokens along with promising buys and then promising profit-taking opportunities, and you can start to direct the trading a little bit more, knowing that it'll always, you know, fulfill your trades and then try to rebalance afterwards and set you back at a set point, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it.
We've noticed.
I explained that in the most geeky way possible.
People they want to have a level of control. Like I think it's normal human nature to want to have some level of control of your own money. Right. And so we're giving people, I feel like, the important controls that you need to have, but still be able to like put them on rails, like in a sandbox where you can play safely. And that's always been the goal of this.
Exactly.
Well, I like the emphasis that, I mean, FAIT as of now on BSC, she's open for everything, right? Sky's the limit. She's training in and out, whatever she sees best. But I do like the concept of having I just pulled up like CoinGecko categories. Like if you pull up the 24-hour time difference, music is up, and this is the total category. So it's not like specific tokens, but music is literally the only one that's up by like 6.1%. That might be one token out of all of them, but you know, driving that range. But
well, it's hard to tell if that's an average, a true average, or a weighted average, or what.
Well, they don't tell us that part. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It might be one huge market cap project that shot up to bring everything else up.
Exactly.
Which it looks like it is because I just went in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we see all this news about the metaverse, right? So there's a category for metaverse tokens, NFTs, just BNB in general, smart contracts, DeFi. It's cool to give the end user that a little bit of control over what they're kind of deciding on.
I
think that's the idea.
If you believe in a sector too, or a particular portfolio, one of the things we're looking into is the ability to carve up the portfolio in lots to where it's always rebalancing to keep a certain percent in every coin that it believes should be in that portfolio. So right now we will completely sell out of a position to where there's nothing of that coin in their portfolio anymore, as you all know. But the other way to do this is you have a target percentage. Like I always want, for example, I could just do crypto. Like I always want AVE to have a 10% stake in my portfolio. Like I always I don't ever want to not have AVE in my portfolio, right? So one of the things we're playing with now is a way to do that. So if the price of AVE goes up, doubles, it'll sell down to where it still has 10%, right? Or if it goes down, it'll buy more to bring it up to 10% again, right? But it's going to kind of maintain that lot rather than selling out of it completely, if that makes sense.
It's actually a strategy of Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank.
But that's not Mr. Wonderful's strategy. This is old school portfolio theory that, a lot of people in the stock world use. So.
I just remember him being a hard component of just saying, I think it was like a couple of years ago, just with Bitcoin, he wanted it to be at like 5 or 10%. And then when Bitcoin went up, obviously then that portfolio size increased. He would then sell off to then stay within that 10% range, right? Then go back.
That's right.
Yeah. And then a lot of people, what they'll do, like people with big money, is they're carving that up by real estate, equity, like different sectors in equities, different sectors in cryptos, bonds. And it's all like, well, I have 5%. But if you got like a retirement account, right? Let's say you have like a 401k or something like that. They usually have this type of slider where it's like, oh, I'm going to retire in 2035 or whatever. And I want 15% in bonds. And then they'll divide that up with different types of bonds. I want 30% in equities. And then they'll buy like, most of that with large cap, like index funds, and a small percent of it with maybe tech stocks. Then you have like certain, that's how they do that. This is old school stuff.
They didn't take into account that. Forgot what number they're claiming it to be. Let's just say maybe 18% inflation rate.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of killing off that whole strategy now.
Well, I told you guys, like I posted again and again, most of inflation is oil. So I still believe that price of oil goes down, oil futures goes down, then the CPI data will look good. I mean, the one that just came out won't look bad, right? And that causes the reaction that we have now in the market.
That's actually, I know we're talking about, crypto, but we talked about portfolio stuff. I got an interesting question just for you guys. So you were both in Europe. I mean, gas in Europe is usually like double, right? Am I wrong?
It's
way more than what we're paying here, right? I mean, no, but what about like
follow it closely? But
what about like food prices, everything else? Did you see that to be much higher than over here, or? Same?
It depends on the country. Right. Depends on the country.
I don't know, over here, price of eggs is freaking huge now. It's like $12. Like you basically pay like $1 an egg now. It's insane.
Really?
Yeah, go to the market, go look at how much it costs now. Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I was curious to just see like what you guys saw in terms of pricing over there.
I think it's pretty regional, right? So, so I speak as a person. This is cool. I love economics talk, right? So,
dude, my egg carton literally went from $3, so the big case I get, to like $11.
So I remember Will and I used to live in California, okay, and then he moved and I moved, and we went to different places, right? But the underlying regulatory structure and energy, sort of infrastructure really has a big impact on that. So, for example, in California, I haven't followed gas prices very closely because I've been driving an electric vehicle for about 2.5 years. But
you're one of
I
those
remember, I'm one of those guys who can't stop talking about it. Remember that South Park episode? Tesla, right? So so it's funny because I remember being in California and seeing fuel. Now, for those of you who are European, we Americans think in gallons and
that's a way different metric system.
Forgive us for this, but I remember it was about $5 a gallon, which for those of you in Europe, it would probably be the equivalent of 2 and some change liters for that amount. So still relatively cheap by European standards, right? But I remember then going to Florida and seeing it for $3, $3.50 a gallon, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it was
insane.
just crazy. And you think about that, you're like, well, why? Right? Well, like, why the disparity? Well, some of it is taxes and policy, right? They have to go through additional refinement to get into California. I'm sure there's part of that. But the other part of it is that Houston basically does most of the refining. And so in Florida, which is not that far from Houston, it actually is the beneficiary of relatively cheap, fuel, whereas the other side of the U.S. not so much. Where I live in the United States, it's actually just about the cheapest place to get gas because a lot of the refining actually happens here. A lot of the drilling happens in the Gulf of Mexico, goes right to Houston refinery, out the other, literally 2-day turnaround process, right? And so it gets pretty cheap, right? So unfortunately, Jason, you're stuck at a high cost of living place, and that's reflected in everything.
Not for long.
Eggs, yeah, there you go. So I don't want to preempt that announcement, but you've got some interesting things happening. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's what it is.
I know we're at like the 30-minute mark. I know, Will, you probably want to take your nap. We just talk a little bit about, let's finish this off with roadmap. So I know specifically, actually, so you guys do not have a roadmap anywhere on the website, right? You guys don't put that out there. But you do have some short-term plans per se? Or do you want to leave it just at the portfolio aspect?
And because we have to build to something, obviously, but crypto changes. I just laugh when I see projects put up these 2-year roadmaps. I'm like, you really think that the market's going to be like solid enough for the next 2 years for you to execute this plan? That's a joke.
Right.
Like we're always like analyzing like in real time as things shift in the market and the economy and what's being built in DeFi and other areas of crypto and adjusting. Like we're pivoting all the time. Dude. Like, okay, this is where we're at right now. We should go.
Every project is.
Anybody that thinks so. I know there's a lot of people that are looking at AI and they are asking about, what's the utility? What does AI do? Like the token, right? Yeah. And when upLink came out, there were some people that are actually like, it's just a fiat exchange. It's nothing special.
Yeah, it's more than that.
I will say, anybody that plans to try and do something similar. Yeah, like a lot of people just don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Like there's like it literally is 24/7, and with the crypto space itself also changing, you guys are dealing with like multiple facets that are changing. It's weird. It's kind of hard to explain, but there's a lot happening behind the scenes that you have to constantly update, like you're always chasing.
Well, we built upLink at like when you think about like revenue for a business. You need to have different modes of revenue that cover different types of situations playing out, right? So in regards to building this as a major feature, like it's not fair to say like on-ramps are a poor business. Like on-ramps make bank. Currency exchanges make bank. Like these like are known
it's little numbers in high volume. It adds up.
And that that's completely independent of market conditions. That's the other thing. We wanted to build a source of income for Flourishing Capital that was independent of the crypto market itself. And we've done that with upLink. That is a very important thing. That has protected us from any sort of crypto crash ever. How many other crypto projects can say that they have a type of revenue model that can do that?
Well, I'm sure we could say 99% don't actually have a revenue model.
True.
I could just say that, right? or actually it's on their roadmap in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's on the 2-year roadmap. Yeah. Got to make some revenue.
But anyway, second to that, I mean, obviously we want to have a speculative component because this was the genesis of everything and that's FAIT and all these things, right? So we're still building that as well. But it's important Like when you run a business that you want longevity with, that you have a stable source of income to always have, there for you in case you fall, like a safety net, right?
And I'll mention one more thing, and I'm not going to get into this just yet because we're not ready to start talking about it. But and Jason and Will know exactly where I'm going with this. We actually see the Flourishing AI model as sort of a three-legged stool, right? With uplink and easy into crypto as one leg, an AI portfolio trader and thematic portfolio trader now, right? So we're working on that. That allows you full control over your portfolio. And then there's a third piece that we're starting to work on as well, which we haven't talked about yet, but there is more coming, I'll say, on that side of it. And this one's pretty exciting for those of you who maybe have looked at some of our past posts. You can probably sort of reverse engineer the direction we're going, but really it's all about providing you with, options in terms of getting into tokens that you otherwise wouldn't have the ability to get into. Let me put it that way.
Okay. I mean, I know what it's kind of about, so I like that. You have that lead list, by the way, of all those games. That was a huge list. So that's about like 400 or so projects that could be potentially uploaded to uplink.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, our when you talk about on ramps, everybody is competing for kind of the high volume play. Every single on ramp out there right now is just like generic ones. Oh, you want to buy Bitcoin? You want to buy Ethereum? Blah blah. They're all the same, honestly. And we feel that's kind of a race to the bottom, honestly. Like, I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to charge 3 cents less. Like, then you become a utility. We're going after the long tail, which is the thousands of projects that they have literally no ability for people to buy their token at all right now with cash. And then we go through, and thanks to Eric's doing the good work there, is like contacting every single one of these guys and doing due diligence. Like, oh, is this a legit project? Are they prominent? This and that, right? And then we're going through one by one. It's a process, but this is really like we're providing a huge value-added service for those projects.
And think about this. If we've gone through the process of evaluating these folks and we feel like they're worth investing in terms of bringing them on uplink, there's probably enough there to indicate that that's a real project that is worth at least your investigation of it, right? Or at least your investigation is the wrong term. Still jet laggy, right? But it's worth your attention.
Point you were making before.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing, right? It almost becomes this indicator of quality, and that's what we intend it to be clear. We're not going to get it perfectly right, and even high quality projects sometimes don't work out, to be clear. There is risk involved. I'm sort of repeating the disclaimer at the beginning of the show at this point, right? But it is true, right? So be careful with your investing, do your own research, but we are doing some of that research as well. So layer yours on top of ours, and hopefully you'll find yourself in a much better position, right? So, because there are very much significant details between some of the projects Will and I talked to that have real roadmaps, real developers, and then others who, it's a metaverse and they've hired this artist and look at this cool art. Okay, but what about the rest of it? Right? So those are some of the things that we're vetting out for you guys.
Deep due diligence. Like, I've been in the angel investing world before, and this is like a whole thing, just doing due diligence on companies, whether they're investable on the angel level or not. And that's actually a very complicated thing, and very smart people get that wrong. Like, people that have ultra high net worth that are surrounded by like analysts and attorneys and all this stuff, like even they get it wrong sometimes. So nobody's perfect at it, but we're doing a lot of the broad strokes that we know needs to be done in that realm. And there's a huge amount of overlap with that, with deciding to process financial transactions for a company. It's very similar in the type of due diligence we have to do.
We're weeding out the obvious riffraff is the point, right? The obvious things that probably you shouldn't be in.
I think you guys are also making your next point a little more obvious as you keep talking about this. the next stage. So let's leave it at that.
You got it. That's a good call.
That. You guys are doing a lot of due diligence. You're doing a lot of research for a particular reason, and I could just say that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
exactly.
We're at the 40-minute mark. I know it's a little bit over of what we talked about. So go get your deserved nap. You want? We'll get you some nap time.
Hey, dream about me some Tulip Mania, and
that's it. So Eric, also just to end this, I do want to have a separate show, by the way, about perhaps illicit activities, I could say, prevalent illicit activities within the crypto space.
Right.
There's
what
a lot
to
of
look
stuff
out
happening
for
behind the scenes and some weird stuff that shouldn't be happening. I think that's a whole topic in itself.
We should have a whole series on that, honestly, like how the types of scams that come up in crypto and how to protect yourself from them. I feel like that could be a whole series.
True. Yeah,
happy to do it.
Most people, they fall for this stuff, and it happens over and over and over and over because there's always a new sucker, right? There's always a new sucker.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that we cater to, I mean, by design, Flourishing AI really, we try to build it towards new users. And the thing is, these new users, they're not going to know some of the things that we know, that Jason, that Will, that some of our, that all of our community knows, right? So the problem is that you have these people coming into the meat grinder, they get fleeced, and then all of a sudden, crypto is just a big scam. Well, no, it's not actually.
You scared them away.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's not good for the growth of the overall ecosystem. That's why you'll hear us speak over and over to cater to new users coming in. Because here's the deal. If we make it simple enough for them, we've probably made something that's really simple and effective for you guys as well. That's the key.
All right, let's leave it at that. That's a whole nother segment, like we said. Guys, thanks again. Welcome back. Let's see you guys again next week. Will, Market Talk. We'll talk about that in Telegram.
It's like way behind, I know, guys. I hope you guys did my volatility hedge against the market drop. That's all I gotta say.
All right, guys, let's end it up there. I'll see you on Telegram. Go have a nice nap. Go relax.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Will. Thanks, community. We missed you guys.
All right, bye, guys.